Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other, and today's episode is Grey's Anatomy, Season 2, Episode 25, 17 Seconds. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened within this episode. So, in this episode, it's basically split between two main incidents. The first incident is a restaurant is attacked by Petey, and it leads to multiple members of staff as well as customers being injured. And one of the injured patients is Brad, who is very much an annoying, narcissistic individual who seems to think that even though he was the target, it is appropriate to brag about how he saw Petey coming, dived out a window, managed to escape with only minor flesh wounds, while everybody else is in, like, actual pain with potentially serious individuals. No, potentially serious injuries, not individuals. I don't know what I was thinking. Anywho, Bailey puts him in his place, and the only person who's actually fatally injured is a girl named Kendra, who was pregnant, was shot in the head, is brain dead. At first, her parents want to keep her alive, but they are talked out of it by George, who basically brings up the point that Kendra was an organ donor, and most likely, based on what he's heard about the type of person she was, would have wanted to donate her organs and to have been able to help save multiple lives. And so the parents nod at the end of this, implying, of course, that they agree and she'll be organ donating. Then the second half of the episode is very much centered around Izzy and Denny's situation coming to a head. So Burke gets called away to get a heart for Denny. And while he's there, the heart he was supposed to get flatlined, so he can no longer use it. However, there is another heart in the same hospital that is also a match for Denny that was originally going to a different patient. And so he decides to stop that surgery, call Eunice to find out if Denny can get that heart. But the other patient entered the program 17 seconds before Denny, meaning that the heart still belongs to that other patient. Izzy, because her boyfriend Denny has now signed a DNR, cannot risk not getting that heart, and so she decides to lie and potentially risk Denny's life to jump ahead on the list. And so she lies and says, oh, Denny's going downhill. His stats are so terrible. And Unos gives him an hour to get the tests done. Burke decides to head to see in person because some of the things that Izzy is saying on the phone are kind of suspicious. Izzy spends a while freaking out about her lie and what to do about it, ultimately deciding that she's already dug herself a hole, she might as well settle in and make the hole her home, and decides that her lies need to become the truth, and so she is going to purposefully put Denny's life in danger and worsen his illness by cutting his machine's wire. Yeah, that's what she decides to do. But we end on a cliffhanger. So she does not cut the wire in this episode. She prepares to. While George watches the door, Burke arrives at the hospital. We hear some shots. And Bailey runs outside, sees Brad on the ground. Petey got his goal achieved. He achieved his goal of ending Brad, which means that Burke unfortunately did get caught in the crossfire a bit, and he is now on the ground bleeding. And this is our cliffhanger. We will find out what happens next in the next episode. Which brings us now to our rankings, and on our mostly objective ranking list, first we will use set values to determine the score, and then on the personal ranking list, we will use my opinion to come up with a score out of thin air. So now we come to our mostly objective rank values. And in first, we have 4 points towards our single episode supporting characters. The first we have is Brad, who is the very annoying manager, who's a bit narcissistic, and is the target of Petey's ire because he fired him. Will, who is a very nice man who keeps asking after Kendra because she was very nice to him, and who overall comes out as a very nice person who's in a lot of pain and is having a very hard time dealing with Brad because as an employee he cannot say anything without potentially getting fired. So that's what prompts Bailey to then go over and give Brad a piece of her mind, which ends up giving him a bit of an attitude adjustment because he does quiet down after that. And even before he leaves, because he just had minor flesh wounds, he even says that he's going to try and get Will some time off so that he can heal before leaving. Unfortunately, again, Brad does pass away at the end of this episode because Petey comes back. Then we have Neil and Deborah, who are fiancés or former fiancés, and basically Neil decided it was appropriate to hide behind Deborah when the shots started, like when Petey started his assault on the restaurant, and therefore she broke up with him. However, then somewhere along the way while they're sitting in the hospital, Neil somehow convinces Deborah to give him a second chance. However, as they are about to be discharged and are leaving the hospital, that's when the sound of Petey's second attack rings out, and once again, Neil drops to the floor behind Deborah, and she basically at that point says that they are so done. So those are our 4 points. Then we have a positive 2 points for our supporting relationship development, and this is Denny and Izzy sharing a kiss before she potentially ends his life because some people may find that romantic. I don't, but some people might. You know, the whole star-crossed thing. Some people like that. I don't. I like happy, healthy relationships. I don't really like the tragic, overly dramatic relationships, which is funny because I do watch this show, in which case, well, not in which case, but in which every case of a relationship is somewhat tragic and dramatic. But that's neither here nor there. We also have a positive 3 points for our multi-season supporting character introduction. This is Erica Hahn, who is, like Burke, a cardiothoracic surgeon, who is the one who is retrieving the second heart and is being stopped by Burke from getting that heart. And last but not least, we have a positive 4 points for a very big multi-season main character development, and that, of course, is the fact that Burke has been shot. Which brings us to the end of our positives. Now it's time for the negatives. Negative number 1. The negative messaging and behavior of Izzy lying to get Denny a heart that is not his, and then deciding to follow through on her lie and actually plan to put Denny into a state where he needs a heart or will die. All the while completely unaware of what's just happened outside with Burke, so good luck there. And then additionally, the fact that she only convinces him to go along with her by having a bit of a mental breakdown, and I found it a bit cringe, but again, no matter what, it was negative messaging or behavior. You should never, never, never do this, and we all saw it coming, and I have mentioned in past episodes about, you know, the fact that one of the main reasons that she should have withdrawn from the case was because now she is too emotionally involved. And while I don't think there's anything wrong with their emotional involvement, I do think her remaining in a position of his doctor while they are emotionally involved is what's wrong. You know, once she fell for him, she should have removed herself from the case and just been a regular visitor to the patient, removed from the medical side of things. However, that's not what happens, and now look at the result. She is planning to potentially kill him because she loves him so much and wants him to have a heart that actually doesn't belong to him in this case. Very negative, negative, negative. But I can only take 2 points because that is the rules of the mostly objective ranking list. Otherwise, I would take way more points. Then we have the supporting relationship regression or breakup of Addison and Derek. who are fighting over Meredith. Basically, at the start of the episode, they're visiting the vet to talk about Doc's bone cancer. And there's some awkwardness in the elevator, and Addison starts to think that maybe Meredith and Derek are having an affair. So she confronts Meredith in a very awkward way, and Meredith assures her, "No, I'm not with Derek. In fact, I've moved on. I'm with the vet." And this is when Addison realizes that, Derek's anger and jealousy is towards the vet. And so then she confronts him about not caring and what does she have to do to get him to care for her. And ultimately he starts to walk away. She follows him. She then yells about how maybe she should just go out with the vet and that will send him into a blind rage more so than her sleeping with his best friend did. Oh, but that wouldn't work because she's not Meredith Grey. And then we realize that they are on a balcony, and right below the balcony is Richard and Christina and Meredith herself, which leads to some awkwardness. And that is basically their interactions in this episode. Obviously, I don't think you could call that anything but a regression. And so, naturally, that leaves this episode as a 9 out of 10 objectively. Alright, so now that brings our season 2 ranking so far and our mostly objective ranking to Make Me Lose Control, Into You Like a Train, Begin the Begin, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies, Break On Through, As We Know It, What Have I Done to Deserve This, The Name of the Game, Deny, 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 Thanks for the Memories, It's the End of the World, 17 Seconds is in 12th place, Enough is Enough, Something to Talk About, Let It Be, Much Too Much, Yesterday, Superstition, Bring the Pain, Blues for Sister, Someone, Band-Aid Covers the Bullet Hole, Damage Case, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Owner of a Lonely Heart, and then Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer is still in last place. So as for my personal rating of the episode, overall I felt it is one of the stronger ones in the season. I don't agree with what Izzy is doing, but it does make for great entertainment value with the drama, and that is kind of where the show exceeds or excels. It's in the drama. So I enjoyed the drama of Izzy's scenario with Denny, even though I don't approve. I loved that it ended on such a cliffhanger of her almost cutting the wire, but not actually. And then, of course, Burke outside, who she is relying on to save Denny, being caught by Petey trying to get to Brad. I enjoyed the dynamics between the various patients. Like, I really liked Brad's narcissism was kind of funny from an outside perspective. Obviously, the patients themselves would not have appreciated it, and I totally understand why not. But from an audience perspective, I found it amusing, so entertainment bonus points. And I even liked, the Derek continuing to be awkward with Meredith because he's so extraordinarily jealous, even though he brought it on himself by making the wrong choice and choosing Addison instead of choosing Meredith, and still being in love with Meredith and thinking that she was going to stay single forever while he was happily married, or seemingly happily married. Yeah. I think he brought that on himself, but I also find it hilarious how they have this screaming match on the balcony in front of everybody. It was great. Overall, loved the episode. Wasn't the best episode of the series or the season, but very strong, and I gave it a 9 out of 10, mostly for the cliffhanger, to be honest, because I gasped out loud at the cliffhanger, which is a physical response, which is very rare and therefore precious. Which brought our season 2 rankings to As We Know It, It's the End of the World, Damage Case, Make Me Lose Control, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Something to Talk About. I put this episode in 7th, 17 Seconds, Into you like a train, break on through, deny, 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 let it be, tell me sweet little lies, the name of the game, begin the begin, blues for sister someone, thanks for the memories, followed by, in 17th place, much too much, yesterday, superstition, enough is enough, bring the pain, grandma got run over by a reindeer, what have I done to deserve this, owner of a lonely heart, and then Band-Aid covers the bullet hole. Now, last but certainly not least, we have our series ranking so far. On the mostly objective side, we have season 1 with with a total score of 77.78%. I feel like my ability to speak gets worse as these videos go on. Anyways, season 2 is at 196 out of 270 so far. Season 1 on the personal side was 66.67%, and now we have season 2 at 176 out of 270. With that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy season 2, episode 25, 17 seconds. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.